Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Don't go anywhere else.
Case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up. Okay. So we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work.
So what he just did there was he did an ad for Donald Trump, because he's saying that Kamala Harris, the border czar, and Joe Biden as president were letting in undocumented immigrants without vetting them. He's saying we need immigrants that are vetted. That's what Trump has always said. He's for legal immigration. Everyone's for legal immigration. He's there doing a commercial for Donald Trump saying we have to stop illegal immigration. That's what he's saying. And then he adds the lie at the end that we need immigrants to do work because we aren't making enough babies in America. That's not why they need immigrants to do work. They need immigrants to come in and do work because they're more desperate than Americans, and they'll work for lower wages, and that suppresses the wages of Americans. So that's the lie. That's the bullshit. Like, oh, we need immigrants to do work because we're not making babies. No, you need immigrants to lower the wages of Americans. That's what the big lie is. Here, I'll play it for you again.
In Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up. So we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work. There wouldn't be a problem. And he couldn't keep people all torn up and upset.
And he couldn't keep people, talk about Trump. Yeah, he couldn't keep people upset if actually Kamala Harris and Joe Biden vetted the immigrants who came in and didn't just open the border. He's doing a commercial for Donald Trump. He's doing a commercial for Donald Trump. Anyway, do we have so there you go.
Can I hear it one more time?
Sure. Kamala Harris has officially lost Saturday Night Live. They're making fun of her. Did you see it? Yeah.
Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened. But if they all properly vetted, and that doesn't happen, and America is not having enough babies to keep our populations up.
That's not true.
So we need immigrants that have been vetted to do work. There wouldn't be a problem. And he couldn't keep people all torn up and upset.
So that's a commercial for Donald Trump and his immigration policy over Kamala Harris's immigration policy. And also he makes the lie that we need immigrants to come do work. We don't. Right now, half the country doesn't think they can afford a house. So there's not enough housing as it is in America. They just let in 10 million more people. Did they build 10 million more houses? No. So he doesn't tell you that part. Like, well, it's going to keep jacking up everyone's housing prices. And we're not making enough babies. So really? So there are people, why is it every McDonald's and Burger King and Kentucky Fried Chicken that's open, they have employees? I don't see any places closing down because they can't find employees. What he wants to do is drive their wages down. Because unions are starting to catch on in America again because workers are struggling so much that unions are catching on at Starbucks, at Amazon. They just want the port workers just won a big victory
Boy, they made that go away so
Just
fast.
like that.
How suspicious is that?
Yeah,
They did not
because
want it to catch on because they didn't want everybody else to unify behind them.
That's right. They don't want people to see, oh, if we unify, we have power.
You know, because he made that case by saying it's going to affect the guy who's selling a car.
That's right. It's going to affect
cars
everybody.
coming in.
That's right. And that's the show like, hey, if workers band together, they have power. And so what they want to do is flood the country with more desperate people so that that upends union organization, that suppresses wages, all that stuff.
You know, it's kind of interesting, Jimmy, you know, when he was saying, like, because we're not making enough babies. And I'm like, well, so are you also dependent on that immigrant class to have more babies to create more slave labor? Right?
Yes,
because there's no solutions.
That's exactly what he's saying.
There's no solutions for my friends who want to have kids. You know, they want to have kids, but they said, I think 10 years ago, I read a piece of statistic that said it takes $300,000 to raise a kid to 18 years old. And I don't see, you know, our wages haven't changed. Gosh, weren't you just saying Americans haven't had a wage increase in the 1980s? Isn't that something that you'd said?
Well, workers used to be, the more productive workers were, the more profit they generated for their company. And then the higher the wage for the worker. So wages used to be coupled with productivity and profits. In the 80s, when Reagan became president, that got decoupled. So workers kept becoming more and more productive and earning more and more profits for their companies, but their wages didn't increase. So that happened in the early 80s, and it's been that way ever since. So in real wage terms, Americans are making less money now than they did in the 80s. For sure. Half the country can't afford a goddamn $400 emergency. Half the country can't afford a house. What does that tell you? So that's what I mean.
And the housing prices in, California,
because there isn't enough housing. They just let in 10 million more people, and they didn't increase the housing. And they let foreign investment in real estate, which they shouldn't. They shouldn't allow billionaires from China to buy property in the United States and let it sit dormant. They shouldn't do that. Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Tempe, Arizona, Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, Cincinnati, Lexington, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for those tickets. Don't go anywhere else.